Have you ever wondered what the highest possible endurance is? Are you a bloodied low health build who's just tired of dying all over the place?
Well, hot diggity dang, you come to the right place.
Let's do a deep dive into the endurance special stats, see what it's all about, see how it benefits us, and how far we can max it out. Roll that beautiful bean footage. First thing to do is to join or create an exploration team for that extra endurance buff. This might be a little tricky since most people prefer to be on a casual team, and they'll definitely join a casual team before they join your exploration team most of the time. But don't worry, they'll probably need a res soon. Next thing we're going to do is make sure that our special endurance is at 15. We're going to boost this further with the legendary perk card endurance, but for now, we're just going to set this to 15, the absolute max. Now, when it comes to the perk card loadout, in an effort to get our endurance as high as possible in the Pip-Boy, there are a couple things we're going to need here. Solar powered, maxed out, rank 3 of 3. This is going to give us 3 extra endurance between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. And then we're going to want Cola Nut, so that way we can get the added benefit of Nuka-Cola Dark. The next thing that we're going to want is Party Boy maxed out. So when we take Nuka Dark, we're going to get plus 6 endurance on 1 food item, which is huge. The next thing that you'll want is Strange in Numbers rank 1. This is going to help boost positive effects of mutations, which in our situation, we are carnivore. That's going to help to boost the overall buff that we get from pemmican. Now, there isn't really much else here that's going to actually boost the endurance stat on paper, but there are a couple of things in the endurance column that synergize really well with having higher endurance. 1, Iron Stomach. This increases damage resistance based on endurance. Natural Resistance increases non-physical resistances based on endurance. And Thirst Quencher increases total AP based on endurance. So if you're going to run high endurance, these are really good options. Another option is Chem Fiend. This is just going to make chems that boost endurance last longer. Now, there is another one here that you can use that's based on endurance, which is Vaccinated. However, if you're fully fed, fully hydrated, and you have company tea going, your disease resistance is already pretty high. And on top of that, the higher your endurance goes, the more disease resistance you get. You're rarely ever going to get a disease. If you want to just be safe, maybe carry around a couple of disease cures. In case you do get one, you can just get rid of it real quick. Some of this video was made before the recent update, so we'll just go ahead and make a quick section here about the recent perk card changes, since a lot of it does infect endurance. Life Giver went down from 4 ranks to 2 ranks. This is actually better now, more or less, than what it used to be, because as you increase your endurance, this gives you a lot more health. And later in the video, we're actually going to see how much health that is. Also moved in here was Through Hiker. This is kind of up to you if you're going to use this or not. And then Starch Jeans also moved into this. Another one that also got moved into endurance was Bullet Shield. If you use heavy guns in or outside of power armor and you want to be a little bit tankier, this is a great perk to have also. And then the next thing is legendary perk cards. For this specific video, the main one we're looking at is this guy, Legendary Endurance. Right now it's max rank, so we're getting 5 extra endurance points. If you're a lower level and you are still working on maxing out some of these legendary cards, it's only got rank 1 out of 4. That's cool. You can apply it for now, and as you continue to level up, put more points into it. Now, some of the mutations that we're going to want in an effort to increase our endurance, we're going to pick either being carnivore or herbivore. Whether or not you choose carnivore over herbivore is up to you. They're both going to be able to get to the max endurance amount the same, just with different food items. And then herd mentality is going to be another one you're going to want. And then be on a team with other people that are mutated. That way you can get the +3 benefit to your specials. Also worth noting is the Egghead Serum. This reduces endurance. So if you're trying to max it out, you would either take another Egghead Serum to get rid of the negative effects, or just not run this one at all. There's a couple other mutations here that you can take that don't necessarily increase endurance, but they do increase survivability, and that healing factor gives you health regeneration if you're not starving. However, the downside to this is that chems and stim packs are reduced. So if you're trying to take something like Psycho Buff to increase your endurance as high as it can go, this might get in the way. Another one to increase survivability would be Scaly Skin. It increases damage and energy resistance. There's also Empath. This one's pretty interesting because if you're by yourself on a team with Empath, it's actually going to make you take more damage. But if you're on a team with other people that have the Empath mutation, then everyone on the team takes less damage. And if you don't have access to these serums yet, you can just vendor hop, probably find them for pretty cheap from somebody, or if you want, just add me in game and I'll drop you a bunch. The next thing, food buffs. Pemmican is going to be your best bet for carnivore. Lasts an hour, and it doesn't spoil in your inventory. If you don't have a pemmican collector at your camp, honestly, you can just vendor hop different player vendors. Probably find somebody that has a pemmican collector unlocked in their camp in about 5 minutes. If you want to, also, you can farm scorched beasts and make roasted scorched beast heart for extra endurance. Those are cool, but they're only 30 minutes. Now, if you're herbivore, you could use either silt bean soup or steeped gourd blossom tea. It's kind of a mouthful to get your endurance to +8 also. The armor that you'll need is pretty straightforward. You just want 5 pieces of any armor that have endurance as the 2nd star. Whether or not you find an endurance 2nd star armor piece as a world drop, or you make your own endurance mod box and apply it to the armor yourself. An endurance mod box requires 30 modules and an endurance bobblehead. If you're looking to increase survivability and tankiness a little bit more, you could have this 1st star be Overeaters. Overeaters is far superior to most other 1 stars for increasing survivability because of its damage reduction. Damage reduction is far superior to increasing damage resistance. That's a whole nother video. We're not going to go over that here, but Overeaters for PvE related content in this game is going to be your best bet. Now, you could be a PvP degenerate, and then in that case, you would just run Assassins. A 3rd star option to increase survivability would be probably Cavaliers, would be your best bet. It used to be the best bet to run Sentinels on all of your armor pieces, but Sentinels doesn't really work the way that it's supposed to. If you want some more details on what the issue with Sentinels is right now, you can go over to Vlad Armstrong's YouTube channel. He has this video he posted a month ago, and then this one that he posted about a year ago that both go into detail about what is wrong with Sentinels right now. The next piece of armor, apparel related thing that you're going to want is going to be Secret Service Under Armor, specifically with the shielded mod applied to it. Shielded mod is going to add +4 strength, +2 perception, most importantly, +4 endurance. You get both the Secret Service Under Armor and the shielded lining plan from regs at Vault 76 after completing the quest Secrets Reveal. Once you have both of those plans learned, you would just go to your armor workbench, go to Under Armor, Secret Service Under Armor, you would make one, you would switch to Modify, you would go down to the Secret Service Under Armor that you just created, click Standard Lining, and then you would switch it to Shielded Lining. The next thing is the weapon. You're going to want pretty much any weapon that has 3-star endurance. So the 3rd star on the weapon is endurance, whether this is from a world drop or whether you apply this 3-star endurance via a mod box. 3-star endurance mod boxes are 60 modules and a bobblehead. A little bit more costly, double the cost of a 2-star endurance for armor, but this is +3, and what's cool about this is you get this +3 endurance even if the weapon is holstered. So as long as that weapon is in your slot and you're holding it, you get the buff to this. Camp buffs to increase endurance. This is going to be the first one. Exercise bike. Increases endurance by +2 for 30 minutes. This can only be bought from Mortimer at the Crater Core for 1,250 gold bullion, and you need your reputation with the Raiders to be at least cooperative. The next camp buff is to have Leo as an ally. Here he comes. Leo's kind of expensive, and he's kind of hard to get. You have to get him from Samuel at Foundation, but it costs 4,000 gold bullion, and you have to have your reputation with the settlers maxed out. You talk to him, you click I'm in need of your services, and based on what kind of Nuka-Cola you give him, he'll give you a bunch of different benefits. But for this specific video, we're trying to min-max endurance, so we're going to give him a Nuka-Cola Cherry, and then we can scroll down here and see Nuka Inspiration Cherry, +2 endurance and +10 damage resistance for an hour. But unfortunately, you can only get a Nuka Inspiration buff from Leo once every 24 hours. So the Chems and Colas are going to be a really big needle mover too, an increase in endurance. Psycho buff, arguably the best chem in the game, 25% damage, +3 strength, +3 endurance, 65 max health. Huge buffs. Psycho buff can be found from NPC and player vendors, but also you can just make it yourself by combining buff out and psycho at a chemistry workbench. Also, if you are making psycho buff, make sure you apply chemist to get double the amount. And the colas that we're going to want are Nuka Twist. This one's tricky because this applies a random positive effect. We'll go ahead and pop one right now, and then we'll look with 3 buffs right here. Oh, we happen to get the right one. So we have +2 to charisma, +2 to strength, and +2 to endurance. And we have this happening right here because of the perk cola nut. It's just that you might have to use a couple of Nuka Twists in order to get this +2 endurance. And then the next one up, one of the biggest endurance buffs on this entire list Nuka-Cola Dark, plus 6 endurance. Pretty huge buff considering this is just a single small consumable item. The reason why this is so much is because this works with both Cola Nut and Party Boy at the same time. Nuka-Cola Twists and Darks can be found at NPC and Player Vendor. It can also be found at the Nuka World Vending Machine and the Nuka-Cola Vendor in the White Spring Refuge. And then we'll go into Aid here and use an Endurance Bobblehead, which will give us +2 endurance. All right, so we've applied all of the endurance buffs now, 70 endurance. Now, this is without 2 things. Leo's Nuka Inspiration buff, where you give him a cherry and he gives you +2 endurance and +10 damage resist. I've actually been putting off this video for days because this seems to be bugged. For some reason, his buff will either completely disappear on server hop or fast travel, it seems like, or he'll give you the Nuka Inspiration cherry buff and it will only give you 10 damage resist and not the 2 endurance. This has happened multiple times. It's just apparently a bug with the game, because ideally right now we'd be sitting at 72 endurance, because that's kind of what the point of this video is to, hey, what's the max highest total possible number? But it's bugged. The other thing that we're missing is the holotape game Wasteland, which gives +1 endurance. But the holotape games are so hard to find because they're just completely random that it's not even worth it. The absolute highest that this endurance would be at this moment, if the Nuka Inspiration cherry buff was working, and if there was a Wasteland holotape game, would be 73. What would be the point or the benefit of pushing your endurance to these ridiculous amounts? First off, endurance increases total health. It also increases action point drain from sprinting and your resistance to diseases. This is important because perk cards like Natural Resistances, Iron Stomach, and Thirst Quencher are based on whether or not you're diseased. Pushing your endurance higher not only makes those cards work better, but it also decreases the chance that you get a disease, so that way you can make the most out of those cards. You can see here, the other benefit is more total action points if you're using Thirst Quencher. So with 67 endurance, only 23 agility, our AP is 549 because Thirst Quencher is giving us 180. This is 18 points of agility just from having high endurance. You can also see here, if we have Natural Resistance on at 67 endurance, we get +80 fire, poison, and cryo resistance. Iron Stomach with 67 endurance is giving us +139 energy and damage resistance. So we'll go into stats here, and at this specific moment with 67 endurance, 976 health, 693 damage resistance, 279 poison resistance with Funky Duds, 79 fire resistance, 750 energy resistance. These 2 numbers right here are equivalent to what you would expect to see in power armor. We're not even in power armor. If we were to get into power armor, we lose 4 endurance because the Secret Service shielded under armor obviously isn't working, but now our numbers go up to 859 DR and then 887. This is Strangleheart, by the way. And this is without any 4 stars. If you put Aegis on all 4 of these pieces, you would have 1100 damage resistance. Now, let's just say you get your endurance up to 70. You go into power armor, so you lose 4 endurance and it goes down to 66. You're obviously still going to be way more tankier because of the damage reduction from power armor. Now, if you wanted to really take this the next step, you would do Hellcat power armor. Hellcat power armor is the tankiest power armor in the game because it gives you +2 ballistic weapon damage reduction on top of the regular damage reduction. Now, if you also wanted to be tanky, you could do a mix of Sentinels and Cavaliers. This set doesn't have 4-star yet. The update just dropped, so everybody's still trying to figure this out, but Reflective would probably be a good idea. All Bones would be a good one to give you passive health regeneration. If you were a little more interested in just increasing overall health, this is what high endurance with a little bit of focus on health might look like. We'll switch from the Nuka Dark and we'll go to Vodka, so we get 75 max HP from taking a vodka. You can see our endurance goes down a little bit, but then our health goes up to 1028. This also should put into perspective how important Life Giver is now. I'll actually put a screenshot up right here showing 63 endurance and the health was 1049. You can actually push it higher than 1049 if you were to give Leo a quantum instead. It might, in that situation, actually go to 1099. Perhaps it's worth doing another test in another video to see what the max health is, to try to see if we could get our health to 1100. So in case you haven't figured it out by now, trying to maintain 70+ endurance is pretty ridiculous and requires a lot of time, effort, resources, etc. But you can at least take some of the principles in this video and apply it to your character and hopefully improve survivability and tankiness. It's worth reiterating too, if you're a lower level character just starting out, you can take a couple of the ideas and tips in this video and just kind of start applying them over time. If you don't have the legendary perk card endurance maxed out 5 out of 5, you could just apply the 1 rank and then level it up over time. Also, don't want to forget about bloodied builds. Everything that you saw in the video was based around being full health. However, everything that we went over still does apply to being bloodied. You would just go from being full health and then increase your radiation and then go down to 20% health. Whether you were using nerd rage and or emergency protocols and or unyielding, you would get to 20%. So you would have your bloodied benefits and then still have a lot of endurance on top of that. But let's say if you were bloodied and your total HP was 900, once you got down to 20%, it would still be 180. 180 health is bloodied. It might not sound like much, but that is a lot. But hey, if you got this far in the video, thank you so much for sticking around for it. It wasn't supposed to be this long, but
Just how the cookie crumbles.
hit that subscribe button or don't. You can hit that like button, thumbs it up.
If you extracted some type of value out of this.
Or dislike the video if you didn't get shit from this. Because at the end of the day, none of this really matters.